Well, greetings, everybody. Welcome once again to the Rec Poker Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fredland, and as always, we are sponsored by Running Aces Casino and Racetrack near Forest Lake, Minnesota. Special shout-out thanks to those guys for all you do in supporting the podcast. Today, we welcome back World Series of Poker bracelet winner Chris Fox Wallace. I know a lot of you love hearing from him, and today we're going to talk a little bit of strategy with him. We're going to talk about making some deep runs in tournaments. How do we do that? We're also going to talk a little bit about strategy around playing special tournaments like add-ons and buybacks. I know Running Aces has their Stack Builder coming up August 22nd to 26th, where it's a $150 buy-in for $10K, another $10 dealer appreciation for $10K, and then $50 for another $20K, which you can use right away, or you can save it anytime up to the rebuy period. So how do you strategically approach those things? We're going to talk about that. That was a question specifically from one of our listeners, Curtis Lemke. So Curtis, thanks so much for sending that in. We were able to turn that around right away and get one of our experts on the job right away. So we're going to talk with Fox about some of the strategic things, but up front, you're actually going to hear a little bit from him about a pretty big announcement coming up. I don't want to be the spoiler, so I'm going to let him share all that information, but it's a pretty big announcement about a brand that's been around. It's going to be relaunched, and I think it's going to be fantastic, and so I'm excited to share that with you. So let's hear from Running Aces, and then when we come back, you will hear from Chris Fox Wallace. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack has the best poker room in Minnesota, featuring 24/7 promos on all cash poker games, including earning $2 per hour in comps, plus the most player-friendly tourney structures. Visit runaces.com for daily promotions and the tournament calendar. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, the official sponsor of Rec Poker. Well, everybody, as promised, here once again with World Series of Poker bracelet winner Chris Fox Wallace. Fox, man, I tell you this every time I see you, but thanks so much for your support, your encouragement with the podcast, and for, I guess, your accessibility to us recreational players.
Thank you. You run a really neat podcast. It's a thing that poker needs a lot more of, and what you do with the charity stuff is fantastic. You do such a good job with the charity tour. It's incredible.
Well, I appreciate that. It makes it a lot easier when you have people like yourself, recognizable faces around Minnesota and beyond that are supporting it. That makes it a lot easier, brings credibility to it. So I'm excited to put that together, but then obviously it takes the players to make it all happen. So that's really cool. So, last time we chatted, it's been a few months since we chatted, at least on air. We had a chance to connect at the World Series, but why don't you take a few minutes here and just get everybody up to speed on what is life like in the Fox Den, if you will?
Been house hunting lately. I live with Jordan Hendrich in Las Vegas, and we were house hunting yesterday. I think we're going to buy a place out in the Summerlin area. And I'm really happy in Vegas. I've been here about 2 years full-time. Kind of was here part-time for quite a while, and I just love it here. I don't love it this time of year so much. Usually I'm back in Minnesota by now. Usually the day that I bust the main event at the World Series, I go to Minnesota. Yeah. Because it's so hot here. But by the time September rolls around, it's beautiful here, and it's beautiful again all the way until May. I love the city. There's 4 24-hour food places on my block. There's a 24-hour Mexican place on my block where I can get a prickly pear margarita the size of my head for $8 at 5 in the morning if I want. It's just a nice option to have, And
how many times have you gotten one of those at 5 in the morning?
Some.
Right.
It's usually when I'm with some people. It's not a thing I wander over there and do myself at 5 in the morning very often, but I've taken quite a few people there.
Well, right, and you told me, when we were out there for Vegas for the World Series this week, you were explaining to us some of the cool places in Vegas that a lot of us tourists aren't even aware of. And now I didn't take the opportunity to do that because I was playing wall-to-wall poker. But I think there's more than meets the eye in Vegas. It's not just what you see on the Strip and not just what you see downtown, but it sounds like some really cool nature things as well out there.
Yeah, you were really on it when you were out here. I saw you one place. You busted a tournament. And I think you even cashed in it, and then we're out the door on your way to go play the next tournament somewhere else. And the whole time you were here, you were on it.
It's unbelievable, man. I just, I think the more I go out there, the more I'll find a more healthy rhythm to it. But at one point I played 22 and a half straight hours because it was the last day there. And we started at 8 in the morning and I busted a tournament about 10:30 at night. I said, I'm just going to jump in the 10 o'clock deep stacks. Ended up winning that thing, but it went to like 6 in the morning. So it's like, man, I was tired, but it was so fun. But I think eventually I'll find a better rhythm and actually take in some of the sights and do some of the cool things around there.
Well done on the victory. That's more than I made this summer.
Yeah, well, a little bit smaller stakes and a little bit softer field.
Well, when you come out here next time and you are trying to get a little more balance, we'll take you to all of the cool places we found. There's, for years I just came out here and considered it a work trip, and I would just play poker the whole time I was here. And once I moved out here, Jordan knew all the spots and has been taking me hiking all over. Now we go to Red Rock very often. It's only really half an hour out of town, and it's beautiful. There's tons of different places to hike.
Yeah.
And, Valley of Fire is only another hour away. Right before the World Series, we went with Josh and Katie Sexton out to Zion National Park in Utah and spent 5 days in an Airbnb there and go into the park. And amazing to just be able to do that whenever I feel like it. I mean, that's like, I complain about poker a lot, but one of the nice things about it is we decided 2 days before we left that that's what we were going to do. And we all just threw a bunch of stuff in a cooler and headed out and had a great time. There's tons of little parks around town. There's tons of bird watching places. And it's just so nice to be able to be outside so much.
Right.
That's what I don't like about this time of year. This time of year feels like January in Minnesota, where you just don't want to go outside because it's dangerous outside.
Yeah, I know. I liken it. To me, it's always very similar to like Minnesota when it's 20 below in the winter. Being in Vegas when it's 112 degrees out, I have that same feeling. I go to the door and I take this deep breath and think, okay, you can do this. It's 150 degrees different, but I have this feeling. It's the exact same feeling I have when I'm ready to go outside.
Yeah, that's really how it feels. The good news is it's only that way about 3 months a year here.
Mm-hmm.
At night, it gets a lot better. Only during really late July and August is it unpleasant at night. But it's only 3 months. What frustrated me about Minnesota was that it felt like 7 or 8 months a year I couldn't go outside.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
I couldn't go outside because there were so many mosquitoes and ticks everywhere. So,
right.
That you get that rush of oh my God, it's finally nice outside. It's actually nice. And I remember back in the days when I lived in Uptown, if you didn't get to a place to eat outdoors or a rooftop to have a drink by 4 in the afternoon,
right,
you weren't getting a seat because everybody was so excited to go out and do that.
That's exactly right. Well, I know you've been an ambassador for a number of different things, your own brands and other brands. I'm not so sure that Minnesota is going to be hiring you to become the brand ambassador for the state.
No, that's unlikely.
That wasn't necessarily a ringing endorsement.
There are a lot of things I loved about Minnesota, and the people are wonderful, and I have a ton of great friends in Minnesota. I was very lucky to find just a huge circle of very good friends in Minnesota.
Yeah,
I will always come back to visit, but I'm much happier living here. The people who are happy in Minnesota are the people who can enjoy the winters. I've got an aunt and uncle and a couple cousins who live in Minnesota, and in particular, my uncle gets out in the winter and he says, why don't you just get out? And because it's 20 below outside. That's why.
Right.
So he goes out skiing and cross country skiing, and hunting, and does all these things that make the winter fun for him. And I think that's really how it's done. The only people I know who are really happy with the state are the people who learn to enjoy the winter and the snow.
Right. No, I totally agree.
Not so bad scraping ice off a car window at that point.
Right. And I still don't have a garage that we park in at all. So it's every morning, start the car, scrape the window. Actually, 2 or 3 of the cars, depending on who we have living at the house at the time. So it's super exciting. But on to greater things. Obviously you've been, if you don't follow Fox out on Twitter, Facebook, you got some really cool photography things you're doing. So I'd love to have you share a little bit about this photography hobby that you have going. And then I know you got some other things that are in the works that you want to share as well.
Yeah, I got started in photography because of Next Level Poker. We started a tour company. We ran one of our own events at Dan and Joe's, and we started the company to kind of provide broadcasting and services for anybody who wants to run events. And then we'll talk about what just happened with that in a few minutes. But I figured I better have a camera to do that, a good camera to take pictures at events and do reporting and things. So I did some research and bought a Sony A6000 and started taking pictures, and they were good. And taking good pictures is pretty easy these days. So I got into it. When I get into a hobby, I really get into it, and started doing research and buying lenses and learning how to use Lightroom, and had a ton of great things to take pictures of. I was lucky to have a good friend in Minnesota who's a night photographer. He loves to go out at night and take long exposure night photos. And he took me out one night and showed me a ton of cool tricks and how that's done. So I got into doing that. Now I walk around Vegas at 3 a.m. taking pictures sometimes. And I love to take pictures out at Red Rock when we're hiking. And
yeah,
it turned into a really fun thing. And when I started to post the stuff on Facebook, people said, this stuff's really good. And I knew that people would say that anyway, but I got enough of that I thought maybe this stuff is kind of good. And then right before the World Series, I bought a new camera, kind of upgraded a bunch of camera equipment so that I could have longer lenses that were smaller and be able to hike with them. And now all I want to do is go take pictures all the time. It's hard to get any work done because I just want to take pictures.
Right. Well, they are really good. Now, I don't have a photographer's eye, so and I got the Minnesota Nice thing going, so I'm always going to tell you stuff is good, but
you'll tell me they're good.
But they are captivating. They really are. I think the only thing that I can add of value at some point is we got to get you to Rwanda with me so you can take pictures of the big game and the 7,000 different species of birds that are out there.
I'm free the end of August and all of September.
Right, we'll see what we can do. I wish I could go that soon.
You tell me when you're going, and I really want to go.
Yeah, I know you do. That would be a blast.
I'm only missing Africa and Antarctica for my continents, so I'd like to get. And Africa is a fantastic place to go take pictures, and I'd love to go see the places that you're working with, where you're providing clean water and things to these places. I mean, that's such a cool thing. Yeah,
it's a transformational trip for sure.
Absolutely. I went to Guatemala a couple times when I was young and spent a bunch of time in Central America and seen people who are actually poor, who actually have real struggle in their lives, kind of changed my view on the world. Being poor in America is nothing like being poor in those places.
Right. It does. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's horrible. But at the end of the day, it messes you up and it changes your paradigms. And I think that's a fantastic result for some of those trips.
Do you end up giving away everything you take with you every time you go down there?
Yeah.
That's what every time I've been to Guatemala, I've done the same thing. I come home with an empty backpack if I have a backpack at all.
Yeah, we bring as much. Usually, we charter our trips with a group that works with nonprofits, so we can bring a bunch of bags, and so we get all kinds of big duffel bags and suitcases donated. We pack them with whatever they need over there. It's been rain boots, it's been clothes, it's been all kinds of stuff that we brought with. Leave all of that there. Leave the bags there, and then usually we're leaving our own clothes there to some extent.
It's amazing how important luggage is. I interact with a lot of homeless people here in Vegas when I'm out at night taking pictures. We have the highest per capita homeless population in America here. And one of the biggest things they are excited about is if I buy a $5 carry-on at a Salvation Army and fill it with stuff, they don't care about the stuff as much as they care about having a good bag to carry it in.
Yeah, because they have a mobile life,
Yeah.
So that's cool. So yeah, keep going with the photos, man. We'll keep checking it out. And hey, if you're out there and you want Fox to take some pictures, give him a shout, man. Who knows
Absolutely.
What could happen out of that deal.
I'm always looking to build my portfolio.
Yeah, you are an interesting guy. Like, you are, whatever comes up new, I know you're going to go in full on and we're going to see some cool things come out of it. So it'll be interesting to see where this photo thing ends up, if it just remains a hobby or if it ends up becoming an income stream, or who knows, whatever. You end up winning some sort of a prize for your photo shoot in Rwanda. Who knows?
That would be fun. I just became the photographer for the CSOP as well. I'm going to be.
Oh, really? Is that Matt Stout's thing?
Yes.
Cool.
Matt's a good friend. He's a super great guy. I love him, and he's done a really good job with the CSOP. He's kind of done on a national scale what you've done locally in Minnesota, where he's just done such a good job and put so much work into his charity events that he just is doing better than everybody else in terms of being able to bring in big numbers of people and bring in celebrities and and generate big numbers for the money that he's donating.
Yeah, I would love to, if it ever worked out, I'd love to get him on the show too and chat a little bit about how he did that and how we can continue to build the brand of poker overall in the broader community. Yeah, I've never met him. I've just heard great things about him, and I've heard him laugh quite a bit. So
I will make that happen for you.
that would be really cool.
I'll talk to him in the next day or two and get him on the podcast.
That would be awesome.
He would love to get the word out more and meet other people who've done cool charity stuff. And he's a really entertaining guy.
Yeah, he does seem like it. Well, let's talk a little bit about what you mentioned Next Level, and I know you actually broadcasted the final table for All In for Africa last year also. But tell me a little bit about what's going on with Next Level and kind of what's next on the horizon for you.
Well, your Minnesota and Midwest listeners in particular will be familiar with INinja Poker. Started maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Took off like crazy and then didn't work out.
Right.
And I was on their pro team. Have known Isaac, who started INinja since kind of the start of the brand. And Isaac ran into money troubles, had never run a business before, and gave up on it. He was an amazing marketer, did a great job with graphics and all these cool ideas, and he was, really hardworking and was a great sales guy, but he hadn't run a business before, and it just didn't pan out. And INinja was dead. And he talked to quite a number of different people about potentially buying the brand, and then kind of gave up on it, and then decided he loved it and wanted it to continue. So he handed it to me. Mm-hmm. And so it is a Next Level company now. Isaac is no longer any part of the company, but he has been helpful in providing us with all his old graphics and setting us up with his graphics people and offering us advice on how to, book gigs and things like that. So myself, Brian Soja, and Jordan Handrich are now the owners of INinja. Next Level is technically the owner of INinja, but Brian and Jordan and I are the owners of that. So we're going to bring INinja back to life. We've called it the Resurrection. Our logo is a zombie ninja crawling out of a grave. And we're going to run a couple of special tournaments related to that. One of them is going to be the Resurrection event, which we're going to have probably as a special event in some other smaller series. And that will be everybody gets an add-on chip. And when they basically you like paying a standard add-on for the dealers kind of thing, and you get that chip, and whenever you go broke, that chip will give you 20 big blinds.
That's your resurrection chip.
Resurrection, yep. Nice. That chip will have the ninja with the crawling out of the grave, and we're pretty excited about the relaunch of INinja.
I mean, the brand is super cool. I wasn't super close to it. I did play in one of the leagues that they had, and I think Isaac did a great job, like you said, of branding and sales, and the logos and all that stuff was really cool. So I'm excited to see that relaunch. I know even I think they were at the World Series one year, I believe, right, selling merchandise and things.
They did they did a big event at Planet Hollywood.
Okay.
And crushed the guarantee. They crushed every guarantee they ever had, which has made it a lot easier for us to book other venues,
right?
Talk to other venues when they see, these guys smash guarantees every time. That's really, really good.
So will there be a Next Level brand as well as an INinja brand, or will it be the INinja brand really going forward under the Next Level umbrella?
We're not sure what will happen with Next Level in terms of running tournaments that are branded Next Level. We're certainly willing to do that, but most places we've talked to have been excited about INinja.
Okay. And are you still going to be continuing I know with part of Next Level was, like you had mentioned, providing some, final table video commentary, all of those pieces. Are you still going to be doing that as well? Or is the kind of the relaunch, the resurrection of INinja going to be taking all of your time?
We're still going to be doing that, and we'll be doing it at the INinja events for sure.
Okay.
We'll be doing kind of a lot of the things we came up with for Next Level to be able to offer events both in a less expensive way for both the players and the house, using a lot of different technology that a lot of the older tours aren't using. We think we can do it better and cheaper and in a more modern way, and we'll be applying all those things to INinja. We'll be doing the live streaming with commentary. We'll be interacting with fans on Twitch during that, and hopefully the players as well interacting with the fans on Twitch.
Oh, cool.
We will be bringing most of our sponsors over as well, and they're pretty excited about the relaunch of the brand. So we'll be doing a lot of the same kinds of tournaments. We'll probably do some kind of free roll sit and go. We'll probably do some training seminars attached to it. A lot of the other things that we were going to do with Next Level, we'll do with INinja.
Oh, very cool. So is there a date and location set that you can announce for the Resurrection or for any other tournaments yet, or is that still TBD?
It's sort of TBD. We are talking to a bunch of places, and we have one place that we're sure we're going to have an event, but we don't announce anything until we have a signed contract and everything's set up to do a proper announcement with all the graphics and everything. But that will be happening, and it will be in the Midwest.
Okay, well, yeah, make sure you let me know, and I'll make sure to get the word out to everybody as well, to the extent that our platform can help draw a few more people. But I think it's really cool because it's a cool brand, and obviously with you, Mr. Soja, Jordan, I mean, there's a lot of integrity there, a lot of experience, both as a player as well as running things and knowing how things work and knowing what it takes to actually have a sustainable business. And so I think it's a great blend, and I'm excited to see what you guys can make out of it.
It really helps to have 3 people who are serious poker players, one serious tournament poker pro, one person who's been a tournament director and a dealer in Brian Soja,
right?
And Jordan's been a serious poker player and a lawyer. So we kind of have all the pieces covered, and Brian and I have both done commentary before. So we were lucky to have the right set of people. And we all had to have flawless reputations in the poker world to be able to bring back a brand that had problems.
Right.
So it was the right mix of people for INinja.
Yeah, that is fantastic, Dirk. Yeah. So do you have anything in mind as far as how many tournaments you're hoping to get to a year, or is it just really, let's just relaunch here, let's see what happens, let's see what kind of momentum we can build, let's see where we can go, or is there kind of a long-term plan or strategy or vision with this?
We have some long-term plans about big things, but we'll have to see how it goes first. We would be happy to do as many events as we can book, and the way that things are set up, where I can run the broadcast out of a suitcase,
right,
really makes life easier. A lot of tours, all the major tours, just couldn't do as many events as we could because they have to either drive somewhere with an RFID table, or they have to fly in a film crew, or they have to bring in a bunch of dealers. With all those kinds of things limit how many events they could run. Where if somebody wants to book us 40 weekends next year, we'll work them.
Yeah.
If any poker room managers are listening, get in touch with us. We'll make you a hell of an offer.
That's really cool. Yeah, you guys check that out. If you're not connected to Fox already on Facebook or Twitter, feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you as well. Maybe with that, Fox, is there a relaunch then also of any Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anything on social media that INinja is back active on that people should connect with?
Yes, we will relaunch it all this weekend around the time that this podcast goes up. You're getting the scoop along with a couple other media outlets, and that will be at INinja Poker on Twitter. And there's a second. What's the other INinja handle? I thought there was a second INinja handle that you just registered.
INinjoke.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's at INinjoke on Twitter as well.
Okay.
And there's a Facebook page, and there's the website, INinjaPoker.com.
So Jordan is right there, and she hasn't chimed in yet. Jordan, what's going on?
I'm his stalker, so I watch everything.
So you're his legal counsel, so you're this kind of there to hold your hand up and say, don't say that.
Yeah, right. She hates when I do lessons and she's not around to hear them. She wants here to listen in on the lessons.
Yeah, that's kind of nice, man. I just want to sit there while you're giving somebody a lesson. That'd be fantastic.
Sometimes it's useful. Sometimes it's an absolute beginner where she probably doesn't learn anything.
Right. Well, very cool about the launch, and we'll make sure that we get the word out as much as we can on that deal. So, anything else with INinja before we move on?
Do you want to tell them about the team event too? Or?
Yeah, we are going to probably have team events at most of our stops, and that will be the INinja. We talked about Ninja Clan Assassin, and talked about a couple other potential names for it. But it will be a 3-person team, and you get credits for both finish position and knockouts, and then payouts by score. We think that'll keep people interested. If one of your guys is still in, but 2 of you are already busted,
Right.
it's worth sticking around, because if he wins the tournament, it gets you enough points that you get payouts, even if the 2 of you didn't do very well. I think that makes it more interesting. And the team events that I've played at Canterbury and Running Aces have been really fun, so I think people will like them.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, you and I actually were on one of those 5-person teams. It's the only team event I ever played, and I just found it so fascinating. Basically, because you can share anything you want, at least the rules at these were you can share anything you want except the contents of your hand. So I specifically remember asking you one time when Ku Vang had shoved on me, I could ask you, hypothetically, Fox, what range would you call with here? And I think it was super great way to learn the game. I think a lot of energy, a lot of engagement by people, because there's just so much more natural chatter than there otherwise would be.
Yeah, I think our events will be they won't have that much. There won't be any different talking rules like those. Those were really fun, but our events will just be a regular tournament, and then adding up knockouts and points for the 3 people.
Okay, yeah, because I was always kind of torn by that. I haven't played many just because of that. It feels like the more that you play together as a team, the bigger the advantage is. So unless you're playing all the time, it seems like it's hard to really compete with the teams that kind of have all that language down. So what you're saying is yours would be not really it's really just playing independently and then just combining the results.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay, interesting.
Kind of like a bounty, but
yeah, like a team bounty event, kind of.
Okay.
The events that Aces and Canterbury ran, where they were the 5-on-5, like you and I played, I felt like my teams always had a huge advantage, because most teams didn't understand how much value there was in keeping team members alive, and
right.
how much value there was in asking the really experienced, good players how to do things. And
right.
I remember Molly kept looking at me during one of the team events, and I would say, I would probably call with something like
exactly
8s are better and 6s are better here, and she would do exactly that. And and the other team would just kind of do whatever they felt like doing, and their less experienced players would just do their own thing, and they just really almost didn't have a shot. The structures are really good, and the couple best teams won every time.
Well, yeah. So I look forward to those events coming up. That's going to be fantastic. Connect with Fox, the INinja, the INinjoke on Twitter. Follow him on Facebook. Good stuff there. So I was going to ask you a unrelated question, I guess, but it's when you mentioned the Resurrection tournament, and you mentioned having a special chip where you can kind of turn that in whenever you bust to get a new 20 big blinds. We had a question from one of our listeners, and I told him, I said, let me ask Fox this question. So his question was around this, well, specifically around the Running Aces tournament. They have something coming up called the Stack Builder, but it's more of a general question around playing these funky tournaments where you can do an add-on at some point in time. So the way the Running Aces one works, really, first of all, the question is basically, what's the optimal way to play this thing? So the Running Aces Stack Builder, it's coming up August 22nd through 26th, but they're doing $150 buy-in plus a $10 dealer appreciation. So if you do both of those things, you get $20K in chips. And then for another $50, you can get another $20K. And you can do that either right away or all the way up through the rebuy deadline. So, the question that really is posed is, what's the optimal way to play that? So do you just say, give me the $40K up front because I want to maximize my, the ability to pound, or do I take it later in case I get cooler and I didn't lose my whole stack? Or if I build a big stack, should I still use it at the deadline? So just kind of some general questions around that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on sort of how you would approach those sorts of tournaments.
I'll take the easy part of that first.
I'd like to ask 30 questions in one, as you well know.
The easy part of it is whether you should use your rebuy toward the end of the rebuy period if you have a lot of chips. You can run an ICM calculator and get a feel for what chips are worth. But if you're paying 160 for 20K and you're paying another 50 for another 20K,
Right.
it's going to be fairly rare that you'd want to turn that down.
Yeah.
You'd probably have to have 200,000 or 150,000. Maybe at 150,000 you'd turn it down. At 100,000, even at 100,000, you should probably take it. That line is probably somewhere north of 100,000, but it also depends on how many chips other people have. What do you think your skill advantage is? Those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've tripled up and have 60,000, you should still probably be paying that 50 for another 20,000. The question of when to use it is a very interesting one, and I've heard different ideas about that. If you think that you have a huge advantage over the field, then it depends on, and this is often I've discussed this with other pros who feel like they have a huge advantage over the field. We always think that. It depends on how many chips other people have. When you're playing cash games, you generally want to be topped up and have a big stack because you can make more money with that big stack than other people are going to get from you with, having that big stack. So you'd want them all if other people have them all. But if other people are not taking that 40K to start with, then you may want to press your skill advantage in the other direction of staying alive long enough for your skill advantage to work and wait. So if everybody else has 20K, 25K, I would probably wait. If other people are using that, or if somebody else at the table has doubled up and they're not a very strong player and they're on your right, you want that 40,000. That would be the primary motivator for me to do one thing or the other, would be other stack sizes and skill levels of the players at the table. And then if you're starting to get short, if you're getting close to the end of the rebuy period, and you've got 20,000 and the blinds are 500, 1,000, you may want to double your stack there, because a lot of people are going to have more chips than you, and it can be really useful to get up to that, from 20 big blinds to 40 big blinds. It's very much, it's like with every poker question, it depends.
It depends, right?
Sometimes having a re-steal stack between 12 and 20 big blinds can be super valuable. At some tables, that is an incredibly powerful weapon to have.
Because I've heard it said even that can be actually the most profitable spots in poker.
Yeah, but at some tables, people are playing tight and then calling it off when you ship on them, and the re-steal is just almost useless. And then you'd want the 40K so you can 3-bet people and steal pots on the flop, or get a big double up when you get a real hand. So I would think about, how is my stack going to play at this table as it is now, and how would it play if I had another 20,000? I wouldn't be worried that much about the $50 unless you have at least 100,000. I would think, I'm going to take this. The question is just when.
Yeah, I think the way that I would approach it is say, I know this is going to be a $210 tournament. It's just a matter of what's the optimal time to take it. What I'm hearing from you is, let the chip stack let your chip stack relative to the rest of the table more or less dictate that decision on timing. Yeah,
but I would almost always agree that you're going to treat it as a $210 tournament, and since the rebuys are allowed, if they are in that tournament, I would really treat it like a $500 tournament and just be willing to rebuy a couple times if I have to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to show up to a rebuy tournament without 3 or 4 buy-ins.
Right. One of the other interesting things that they're doing is you can actually take. There's multiple flights into day 2, and instead of doing what they do with their a lot of their 280s, where they have a $1,200 buyback, what they're doing is you can actually advance 2 bags, but the smaller bag you just get a certificate for a $150 deep stack tournament to be used sometime over the next year. So there is some sort of a qualifier type of feel in some situations, and
interesting way to do that. I like that.
Yeah,
that's really smart for the house to get people to come back in later, and that's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, and I think there'll be less barking about the buybacks taking away from the prize pool and that sort of thing. Which is one of the things I also wanted to ask you about, kind of related to this, is their signature series tournaments have the $280 6-day ones. If you advance more than once, you play the big stack, and then you get a $1,200 buyback on the smaller bags. And I'm curious, there's always this back and forth from people on if they like buybacks or don't like buybacks. The advantages of the buyback, of course, is if I get through one day, I can play more flights, and presumably overall that's going to increase the prize pool. The negatives of the buyback are that $1,200 every time somebody has multiple bags is going to come out of the prize pool. So you have this, we're going to add more entries, but then we're going to take out of the prize pool the buybacks. And then there's also this funkiness that happens at the end of day one when you have several people that have already gotten through a bag, and they're just trying to survive to get the $1,200. So they're playing it like a qualifier while everybody else is playing it, trying to build a stack for day two. And so I'm curious, if you've thought about that, what are your perspectives on it?
I notice anytime a new type of tournament or a new structure, anything is changed, strong players generally like it, and weaker players will sometimes be afraid of it. Strong players will look at all these things as potential opportunities. We are predators. Weaker players will only see that as a positive thing if it's a fun change they like. So when you introduce new things like that, you have to be careful that weaker players don't feel like it makes them prey and that it's fun for them. Otherwise, they won't see the equity, because my whole job is to see real equity and to see through all of the rigmarole in games that make things look different. So, when I get an email from Caesars that they want me to come in and play some free thing, I can look at it and say how much real value is in this pretty much right away. And I do the same thing with these different tournament options. When I look at buybacks, I love them because I see what they do to field sizes and prize pools.
Right.
I see what they do to the play, and I see all these opportunities to attack that. Players who just want poker to be played the right way, the old school way, they talk about pure poker. I've got a friend who says Omaha's not poker because it's not, because it's too crazy. And I know lots of people feel that way about rebuys and about re-entries. There are people who say, I just want a good old-fashioned freeze-out. I want poker to be played the right way. The reality is, if we're playing it with chips and cards for money, it's poker, and we can treat that a lot of different ways. If the kind of poker you like is a simple no-limit hold-'em freeze-out, that's fine. I like them too. But all these things are poker, and they're all things we can exploit. And the more odd things there are, the more interesting it is for me, and the more things there are for me to attack. So when I know that someone has gotten a stack through already and I see them with a short stack toward the end of the day, I love that, because I'm going to steal all of their blinds for the whole rest of the day, and they're not going to play a hand.
Right.
And when I see players who've gotten a small stack through and want to build, then I can treat that differently. And when I know people haven't gotten a stack through and they really want to, I can treat it differently. You get a feel for how people are playing, and toward the end of the day, it becomes a really interesting dynamic. I think a lot of people see that dynamic as a change that they don't like. They're afraid of the change. But I see it as an opportunity, and I think it's really fun. And anything that makes poker more interesting is great for me at this point, because I've kind of played enough poker that I'm bored with the same old stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's one of the things that I learned in those buybacks, or after the first few times of playing it, is I never tell anybody if I've got a bag through or not, because you can take advantage of people so much there. And I know that's when I've built so many big stacks at the end of day one, simply by knowing who at the table already has a bag through.
It really helps.
It's huge.
And I see people, people will look at how much money came out of the prize pool for the buybacks, and then they'll be disappointed. Then, if you add up, say, okay, what if we hadn't had buybacks here, and everybody only played this tournament once? The prize pool would, in the end, probably be quite a bit smaller, because most people who are chasing those buybacks are not doing so profitably.
Right, and that's what I try to tell people all the time, and I it's rare that I find somebody that can actually go there logically with me. I don't know what the numbers actually are, but people say they took out $10,000 out of the prize pool, and I said, well, how many entries do you think accounted for those people chasing the buybacks, and how much did that add to the prize pool? But people are like, oh, they just keep taking out of the prize pool. Well, I'm trying to explain that instead of 850 people, we might have had 500. or 550. Who knows?
Exactly. So, when they're paying, when they're getting 15% of the field through to day 2, and they're paying $1,200 buybacks for 280, that's approximately 25%. You're getting a huge advantage there.
Yeah.
In extra money going into the prize pool that people are putting in bad, and getting it in bad is what you want your opponents to do, right?
Right. So we're running low on time already. The time just flies by, but I did have one more question I wanted to pick your brain on a little bit, and this is related to how do you make deep runs in huge tournaments? And I ask you this, of course, because you did win a World Series of Poker bracelet. You also ran super deep. I don't remember, top 3 or 4 final tables, I think, last year's World Series main event. I'm curious, as you look at those, multi-day tournaments, obviously having the skill set and having all the tools is important, but is there anything specific to those big tournaments, those huge fields, those long days that, you'd say really are the keys to making it deep?
I think it's extra important in those events because typically they have very good structures. To understand the structure is fantastic and to never panic. My advice to many of my friends who will ask me things about poker in tournaments is never punt, never give up, never punt your stack away, fight for every last chip, and don't panic and throw your chips away because everybody else has twice as many chips as you are. Just know I have 30 big blinds. That is a fine tournament stack. I'm not going to do anything stupid. Now I have 18 big blinds. That's a fine re-steal stack. I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm going to play smart poker. I have 50 big blinds, and suddenly I'm in this huge pot, and I only have jacks on a 9 high board, and maybe I should just throw these away because I've got lots of time and I have 50 big blinds left. It's about being more conservative with how much you're willing to gamble. And then since you're going to spend all day with people in a good structure, you don't get moved tables as much. Your tables don't get broken as much, and you don't lose as many opponents. So you're going to have more time to study these people. And that means you're going to find more opportunities to attack them if you're paying attention. And that, again, leads to a little bit more conservative play because your ROI goes up. When the more advantage you have over the field, the less gambles you should be taking, the less crazy risks. And you may end up playing more hands on like day 4 and 5 of the main last year. I played a lot of hands, but I was able to, because everybody's conservative by the time you get to day 5 in the main, almost everybody. Ben Lamb wasn't, but everybody else was. And you find opportunities to take advantage of them. But if somebody pushed back and it was a gamble, I usually turned it down. You have to be more careful and pay attention all day, and then you have a real shot at making deep runs in those events. But a lot of it is the fundamentals. Just get better. It's not when people ask me how do I stop bubbling tournaments, I tell them get better at poker. It's not about how you're playing on the bubble necessarily. If you play better the first 2 hours, you might have had a bigger stack to take to the bubble, or you could get somebody to fold a hand that you could then chip up more and make a deep run. And the littlest things in the beginning have a butterfly effect later. And so it's just get better at poker.
That's so good. I think that's such a key question, whether it's in any given hand, or it's in any given tournament, or it's in any given series of tournaments. That idea of how did I get here? I think that's something that I think you shared in one of our earlier interviews. That was a great breakthrough perspective of it's not just the decision that you're facing at the moment. It's every decision that you made leading up to that point. Yeah,
they all matter.
Yeah. Well, hey, good stuff. Let's we got to wrap up here, but why don't you give us one more shout out around INinja, how people can connect with you if they're interested in both you personally and your photography, as well as INinja. What should people do?
At INinja Poker on Twitter is going to be the best spot to be in touch with us. I'm at Fox Poker Fox on Twitter. I accept pretty much all friend requests that aren't spam on Facebook, and you can see my pictures there. Foxphotos.myportfolio.com is not the greatest domain, but it's free from Adobe, and it's a beautiful setup where they put uncompressed pictures online that load very quickly. I don't know how they do it, but I put my portfolio up there, so there's some fun pictures to look at. And INinjaPoker.com is going to be where all of the announcements happen.
Very cool. Well, excited to see where that goes. Make sure you let us know, and I will have you back on here from time to time, I'm sure.
Thanks for having me on, Steve. I'll take you up on that trip to Rwanda whenever you're ready.
All right. I'll let you know once we get it booked.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Take care, Fox. See you, Jordan.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks to Fox. Thanks to Curtis Lemke for the question. That's it for today's episode. I want to remind you that you can really help us out here by liking us, or you can rate us and review us on iTunes. You can subscribe, and you can tell others about us. The numbers have been growing great, and we'd love to keep that going. So please feel free to share this with others, and let me know if you have ideas for an episode, or if you have some contacts with other pro players that you'd like to hear from. Connect me and let's go. Also, if you want to wear a Rec Poker patch, I'm happy to send those out. And we have a lot of merchandise now available at floptheworld.com/recpoker. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at RecPoker, Facebook, we have the Rec Poker group, or email me directly, stevefredland@gmail.com. As always, good luck to you on and off the felt this week.